You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of a short story through to the line edits of a full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All right, this is Jessie. How y'all doing out there today? You know I miss you when we're not talking. But wait. I'm not alone. And I got a special guest on today. I've got Marine combat veteran John Preston. How you doing today, John?
We're doing wonderful. How are you, Jessie?
I'm great. All right, a Marine combat veteran. That says a lot right there, but why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Wow. We'll give you the condensed version to start this, and then we can break into details later. Personally, a Marine and combat veteran. I came from a family of Marines, both brothers and my father. My father served in Vietnam. He was very proud of that, and I think that's why we all joined. I've been a musician my basically entire life, and I've now taken the two and doing what I can to advocate for the veteran community. I've been about 3 years strong with Pacific Records and publicly fighting veteran suicide and post-traumatic stress. We're here today because we're releasing a new album with 8 other phenomenal musicians, most of which are combat veterans themselves, and donating 100% of our proceeds to the Valkyrie Initiative for veterans and first responders. So we're going to talk about my new single, Superman Falls, and why that came about and what that's about. So I'm just excited to be here and talk and tell everybody a little bit about who I am. You know, beyond that, I actually work as a full-time firefighter as well. Though it looks like it in the media and everything else that I would be a full-time musician, I'm not. I do this to make a difference in our community. I do this for the veterans to make change. So, yeah, that's why I'm here.
Well, I gotta say, it sounds like you definitely come from a family that knows how to serve your country, because you put on the uniform of a United States Marine. How many years did you serve?
I was 4 years, from 2000 to 2004. So I was in. We talked off record about 9/11, and I was actually in when it happened out in the field training, and remember that day very clearly because they pulled all of us. We were doing range 400 for the Marines out there. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And they pulled us out of the range and had this formation and said our country is under attack. And none of us believed it. I remember actually specifically not even believing that it was real until that night when we were laying in our sleeping bags and there were no planes in the sky. And so it really did take a while to set in. I think 3 days later, we got back from our field op, and I actually saw it on TV as we were coming down on the base. Main side was protected. All of our mechanized vehicles were out and around the entire base. So it was just, you know, a shock to realize I now was in the Marine Corps during a time of war and was getting ready to go get dirty.
So how many times did you deploy, just out of curiosity?
I had one deployment at the early 2004. So literally my last 6 months in, I was in Japan when the war in Iraq kicked off. And our unit, which was 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, was the only infantry unit of 7th Marines not to go for the kickoff of the war. We were left in Japan for 11 months on a 6-month deployment. So at that point, it was incredibly heartbreaking to know that everyone else was over there fighting and we were sitting. So my opportunity knocked in 2004. I actually had been fapped out away from the infantry. I was at base telephone, working my actual trade as a wireman. And we were asked as the group of NCOs that had been sent up there if we would volunteer and go our last 6 months to Iraq. So we all raised our hands and took that opportunity, knowing that there was a ton of brand new boot Marines that didn't have the guidance that we had, and we went back to do it with them.
Well, I gotta say, that is awesome. I mean, you raised your hand once and said, "I will serve my country," and then during that service, you raised your hand again to say, "I will put myself in harm's way," to make sure that those of lower rank and lower experience than me can come home to their families.
Well, what was cool about it, I had been with Golf Company my entire time before I tapped base telephone, so I wasn't in the comm shop. I had actually worked with the infantry as a company wireman and a company radio operator, so I had been with the infantry the whole time. So I actually raised my hand a third time. When we came back, we had a formation with H&S Company. I was going back to the comm shop. They asked if we could have senior NCOs that had infantry experience to take over and run our internal guard force and our mission squad and quick react force. Since there were 3 of us that had been out to the infantry, I was the first to get my hand up. So I ran the 2-7 H&S mission squad. I actually had a group of Marines, none of which were infantry, but every Marine is a rifleman. I called us the Bad News Bears. because we were a bunch of non-infantry Marines. We ran over 120 combat missions in Iraq. We were outside the wire every single day for, I think, 75, 80 days straight. So my third raise of my hand kind of made what my time in Iraq was, you know.
Well, I think that is absolutely fantastic. I mean, I can't thank you enough for your service, and you've got quite a story there. So what made you decide to set these words and pour out your heart into the music?
My original go at the music industry was in 2004. I was in Iraq. I actually had been playing music since I was young. I've been writing songs for a few years at that time, and I wrote a song over there that was actually inspired by opening a school. We were there running security for an Iraqi school to be open. The kids get around us, they start clapping and chanting, and they're singing Good, Good America. I wrote that song. I had to write that song. I wrote that song that night. And basically, through a bunch of series of events, my Master Guns heard me play it, said he wanted to send it to his brother in Atlanta that had a record label. Master Guns told me to do something, so we figured out how to do it. We ended up making a video there on the little bit of off time we had. I started a website at that point, was johnpreston.us. This is pre-YouTube, pre-anything. And we put this video live. They played it at the battalion meeting, and that night Los Angeles Times comes and knocks on my door and says, I want to tell your story. Long story short on that, he released it into the newspaper circuit, which basically at that time, that was the way people got their news. It wasn't a Facebook feed. It hit the circuit and it went crazy. We had 500,000 downloads in a day on the website. I was famous overnight. I was still in Iraq. I was still fighting the fight. I was still going outside the wire every day. But now I'm fielding emails and making phone calls from a sat phone, talking to media sources and record labels and, you know, anything you can imagine. It was happening in the midst of combat. So that was my first go. I had a successful run when I got back from Iraq. I signed with the record label back then. But when we released the single, we released it 6 months out from my return and kind of had lost our media. I was with a young, immature label, should we say, at that time. And I didn't know how to work. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what the industry was. I just knew that I was going to make it, and that was what I was living on. I also, when I got back, was putting a lot into the bottle, was blacking out a lot, was drinking away whatever I was dealing with.
That's not good.
And, I mean, it was a big group effort to make sure that at that time in life, I wasn't successful. You know, I was to a point because I was spreading a message that we were fighting a better war than the world was telling you. But that message ended probably about, you know, at the most a year after I got back. I quit playing music.
You quit playing music. You hung up your guitar and said, I'm done, and walked away?
Yeah, I never felt frustration like that before. I was this farm kid from Kentucky. I didn't know much about the world. I was living in California, living in LA at that time. The gigs had stopped. Everything had stopped. I think I played one gig where there was like nobody there, and I was just like, I'm done. I can't do this. I'll play for stadiums or I'll never play again. You know, that's kind of how I felt. And I didn't know what drive or determination to be successful in this industry was yet. I had no idea. I was young. I was 23, I think, at the most at that time. So I had no clue. I was lost. And, yeah, I hung it up. I put it down. It never left me. You know, I obviously was still writing. I was still playing, but I was no longer attempting to be in the industry for sure.
So you were still playing for yourself and your friends and your family? So you didn't walk away from music.
I was playing for myself. Yeah. I didn't even share it anymore. You know, it was just, I think my first kick of realizing that I still had it in me was when my son was born. I had sat down and I learned a ton of new songs just to play for him, you know, and I realized that I had not only, you know, matured in playing, I had gotten a lot better. But I was in a different pursuit at that time. I was getting into the fire service in California, and that's an insane world its own. I mean, that whole world and that drive, that determination to get that job actually has set me up to where I am today, because now I know how to work. Now I know what I need to work on. Now I know where to focus my energy to actually be successful.
Well, that's amazing. And so you mentioned that you were putting a lot into the bottle. So are you staying clean and sober now?
Yeah, well, I've been sober for a year, and we'll get into why on that a little later, but a whole different perspective on life. Yeah, it's amazing what clarity you have in a sober mind. You know, for those that think that the demons will get bigger, that things will get worse, it's such a misconception. Putting it away with substance does nothing but put it away, but it's still there. I've had a chance now in the last year to get rid of a lot of my anxieties, to get rid of a lot of my fears, to be more confident than I've ever been in my life. And, you know, I attribute that to sobriety, 100%.
Well, that is fantastic. And I know that alone will inspire a number of people. So you have how many songs out now on iTunes?
We have 2 5-song EPs and a single, and then we have another one that we'll be releasing, so I guess 12 in total. But that's been the last 3 years of work. A couple of very successful releases from an independent artist that started with no name. I was working as a firefighter. Just quick segue into how it all started back. Like I said, I felt the itch and wanted to be back. I wanted to play music. I'd written some songs that I wanted the world to hear. I was working as a firefighter, and I tore my shoulder out and was told I was going to be out of work for 8 months.
Ouch.
I had a friend that had told me, "Hey, let's read The Alchemist. It's a great thing. I think, you know, with everything that you've done in life, you should really check this book out." So I read The Alchemist, and I was blown away. It was as if this book completely spoke to me. It said, "What are you doing? The universe is telling you every single day what you should be doing with your life. You know, you have to do that. No more fear, no more worries. You're standing on the edge of the cliff, just jump." So I listened. I went for it. And I called everyone that I knew from 2004 that was in the music industry, and I said, "I want to go back. Let's do this." I had 0 followers on Facebook. I didn't have a Facebook. I had, you know, no live music experience in probably 8 or 9 years at that point. I had no following, no fan base, no story, no anything. But I was given this opportunity, and I took everything I could to make this opportunity real. I knew what I wanted to do with my music. I knew I was sitting on Your War Is Over, which was our first EP to release, and I wanted that message out.
And what's that song about?
Over. What's that?
What's that song, The War Is Over? What's it about?
So I wrote that to a friend of mine that is addicted to methamphetamines. And I actually wrote it in my biggest downfall of alcoholism, too. And it was basically saying, your war is not at home. You know, is that we need to do this together, that we can join and actually defeat and accomplish everything that we ever wanted to accomplish in life. But we have to do it together, because when we take this on our own, we get lost. We get lost inside of so many different things, and we're super prone to doing everything excessive. So when it comes to alcohol, when it comes to drugs, it's a dangerous combination with people with our personalities, So Your War is Over was a cry out to the veteran community that, hey, we need to join together. And this happened, I believe everything that I released started prior to the 22. And it happened as that happened. So it was just such a beautiful, like, serendipitous combination of what we were doing and now this concept that the entire veteran community, all of us that wanted to see difference, wanted to see change, we're now stepping up. They're building their own nonprofits. They're, building huge companies like Grunt Style and Article 15 that are literally making change for our community, giving us hope, giving us a reason, letting people know that post-traumatic stress is not debilitating. It's not the end all. It shows that you are strong enough to get through that crap so you can move forward. And a veteran with a mission is no different than an active military member with a mission. We get it done. So find out what your mission is in life and go after it.
Well, I got to admit one thing. I actually have already, before we ever met, I actually have some of your music on my iPod. And it's the Your War Is Over EP. It was the picture of the boots that drew me to it. That and the Good America. And I was just like, I had to have those songs. So I will admit that when the chance came up to interview you, I obviously jumped at it, especially, and as my listeners know, and it even says in my intro, I am a Special Forces widow. And it's the knock that changes your life. And there's no way to explain it to someone who hasn't walked a mile in your shoes. But I then regrouped and I remarried another service member. And so not only am I a gold star, I am also an active duty service member spouse. And I've even said on air occasionally, sorry I wasn't with you last night, guys. My military family needed me. And I've told them time and time again, I love you, I love my listeners, but my military family will always come first. And I've had some interesting reactions and emails to that. Some people tell me that if I'm not in it just for my listeners, then I shouldn't do it at all. And other people have said they think it's fantastic that I put the military community first. So it depends on your perspective, I guess.
Yeah, life is perspective. Yeah, it's how we do or don't succeed. Plain and clear. So yeah, I appreciate that you already have my music. I know that I've reached a lot in the community. I can look at downloads and video views and things like that and know how far we've already gone. My goal is well beyond the community. That's what this next album is about, and that's what it's going to do. I mean, it's slotted to be in the top 10 in the rock charts.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So, John, you've been through so much. It's just fascinating. And I've got to admit, I love your music. Several of it has found its way into 3 of my playlists.
Yeah, that's awesome. And as I was saying, our goal is to be national. It's where we're going. I had a vision. I have stuck to that vision. And we're not going to stop until we're there. And I believe, honestly, I'm living in it already. I haven't been off my phone today. I haven't stopped, and it's 2 weeks of pre-release and the most press coverage we've ever had. And, I'd like to get into that story now if we can.
Sure. Got about
how this all came about.
10, 12 minutes before we got to take a commercial break. So by all means.
Perfect. So basically, I'd been at it for about 2 years now. We had released Your War Is Over. We released Day to Night. We've been all over the country doing anything from television to radio to playing gigs for charity events. We're pretty good about doing charity for free as long as we can get there. So I was actually on my way or just gotten to Sacramento to meet another All Wounded Warrior Band, which you may or may not have heard of before, Vetted. And we met those guys to go play a show in Sacramento. We're in a hotel. We're all having a good time. We're all laughing and joking, and I get a phone call that comes in. This is January of last year. I find out that my older brother, who was a Marine veteran, police officer for 20 years, and literally my idol a lot of my life, succumbed to his battle with post-traumatic stress, succumbed to his battle with depression, and took his own life.
I'm sorry.
I was done. Honestly, I played that show that night. I don't know how I did. It was about an hour before we went on stage, and I was numb. I didn't really know what to think. I was blinded. My sobriety came from that. Yeah, I drank that night. I think I drank for another month, and then I've been sober ever since. But it was crazy. I'd never felt that kind of fog. We had lost our dad 6 months prior, and our dad was like literally the entire family's hero. He was the puppeteer. He kept us all in line. He handled and kept things straight. So it was tough because Dad always knew what to do, and I don't know if it was Dad's loss that brought my brother Michael to where he went or what it was, but ultimately I picked up my phone to call him that day, and I didn't. You know, a lot of things happen that make you wonder why or if I could have. And I realized at that point in time, I felt like, what am I doing? You know, I had this whole just concept. I'm literally playing a show for veterans with post-traumatic stress and veteran suicide, and I miss it in my own family. And I was disgusted with myself. I hated me. I hated everything that I had done, and I had been successful. I've saved veterans' lives individually, on a personal level. People that have reached out to me, I have saved. But I missed it at home. Yeah. And this was different because every time I'd ever seen it before, it was someone else's life. My other brother, Nathan, said to me, you know, this isn't what happens in your life. You know, this is something that you hear about someone that had a cousin that did, you know, like, and it was mind blowing because my brother Michael was a freaking stud. You know, he was Superman. That's why the song is Superman Falls. Everybody on earth went to him. 3,500 people went to a funeral and waited in line for hours at a time to see his body. 200 police and firefighters shut the roads down in northern Kentucky to escort him to the funeral home afterwards. We literally shut down the world because he had touched that many people in his life, because all he cared about was helping others, and he never cared about himself internally. And he let that build and build and build and build, and then one day, poof, it's gone. One day there's 4 children now that don't have a father. You know, one day there's a little brother and another little brother that go, what happened? What did I miss? I felt that, but I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what to do, period, in general. I couldn't see past 10 minutes in front of me. 3 days after his funeral, I went and got a tattoo. I got a tattoo of a 22 on my wrist with a semicolon. Semicolon is Project Semicolon, the concept of, you know, when a writer feels like the sentence is going to end, you know, it's their choice to continue it. So I decided then that I was going to continue my sentence. And I wrote that day. I posted something on Facebook, and if you go back to January 20th of last year, you can read it. Basically saying, I'm going to stumble, I'm going to fall, but I'm not going to stop. You know, the world will know. And I had no plan. I had no project. I had no action. I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew that I was sitting in a heap of a mess, and I knew that 21 other families were doing the same thing I was doing that day. And I knew that happens every single day.
22 a day.
I knew that we could make a difference. I knew that I could make a difference. I knew that somehow, some way, God had chosen me to make noise. And I had already been making noise. But God chose me to make more noise than anyone else in our community. And I was going to do it. So it took months before I came out of a haze. I wrote an entire album in about a week. basically was just knocking out 1 or 2 songs a day for about a week straight. My writing process is really interesting because I don't spend a lot of time. I actually write most songs in about 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes 20.
Wow.
An entire song, start to finish, fully composed. It's just how I work. And these were just flowing out. They were just coming out. I would sit down at the piano and I'd have a song in 20 minutes. I'd pick up my guitar. I'd have a song in 20 minutes. And I built this entire album, but I hadn't written Superman Falls yet. The album itself at that time was called It's Not Better, because it wasn't. It's not better now that he's gone, you know. And I was laying in bed one night, probably 2 or 3 in the morning. I was still had a fog, you know. I felt better that I'd written this album, but I wasn't done. There was still a fog over me, and I got up in the middle of the night singing a chorus. I was actually singing, "Everything is changing," and I'm just getting it, you know. And I knew I had something. I didn't know what it was. So a lot of times this happens. This isn't unusual. I could be riding in the car and start singing a song that has never been heard before. It's just what happens. But this one, I knew I had to get up and I had to do it, and I had to do it now. So at 3 a.m. or whenever, I wrote Superman Falls in about 15 minutes. I finished that song, and I knew exactly the moment I finished it what I needed to do with it. I knew that that was my title track of my album. I knew that that was my next single. I was on the phone with my producer before the morning saying we need to go ahead and lay down a demo track to this. So by like a week after that, I was in the studio recording a demo. Still no project, still no concept. I was working on my own project of getting this album out, and I get a call from the Valkyrie Initiative. Valkyrie Initiative says, "Hey, would you like to donate a track to our album?" I said, "Sure, why not?" Gave it away. They come back 2-3 months later. It was probably September, October at this point of last year, and they say, "Here's our track list. These are the artists on the album that we're going to print CDs and sell at our charity event." And it's Scooter Brown Band, it's Ryan Weaver, it's Rowdy Johnson, it's D-Rock, people that I've followed for years, people that I was totally into already. I remember comically when I took over as executive producer of this album, I called Scott Brown and I said, "Hey, Scott, pull up Facebook right now and look at your missed messages in Facebook. See how many times I wrote you. I've been reaching out to these people for 3 years. So now I have my opportunity. Now we have an album packed with these phenomenal artists, most of which all but one are combat veterans. And we're moving forward at an incredible rate because I called Pacific Records and I said, I'll do the work. Let me have this release. Pacific agreed. I think back when Valkyrie asked originally, I had donated Your War Is Over. Now that I'm in control of the project, I said, we're doing Superman Falls. I want it done with the best producer ever. We cleaned my sales account out to go work with a Grammy-winning producer, Alan Sanderson, who recorded Bridges Babylon. He's got, you know, anyone from the Rolling Stones to Fleetwood Mac to Rihanna and Weezer on his wall. And we went in and we worked with the best.
That's amazing.
I knew what was in front of me, and I wanted the best product possible to make noise for this story. I say story, it's my life, you know, but I wanted to be loud, and I knew I was going to be loud. At this point, it's not even like I wanted to. It's happened, and I'm living in it right now. Go on Facebook and just scroll down the timeline. I did it today. It's amazing. It's amazing how much coverage we've had in 2 weeks since we released our pre-release. We're shaking the earth. That is the entire plan.
Well, I think that we are going to take a commercial break, and with your permission, we're going to go out with Superman Falls. At least part of
perfect.
it. All right.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at rahardin.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from the critique of the short story through to line edits on full-length novels. We also offer assistance on generating writers' bios for your websites. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Everything is changing.
And again, that is just a small taste of the song Superman Falls. And John, thank you so much for hanging in there with me over that commercial break.
Absolutely.
And he has given us permission to do the most amazing thing. He has given us permission to play the song. So when we end the show today, you are going to get to hear Superman Falls in its entirety. Is that correct, John?
That is correct, and that is 5-6 days before it releases. So it's a little special treat for everyone, right?
It'll probably this episode will probably air on Monday, the 13th.
Yeah, so you're looking at
4 days
out or 5 days out from the actual release.
And I thought that would be a special treat for everybody. So, and I thank you for your permission to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for the world to hear it.
And I actually have to admit,
run a pretty massive radio campaign, so people are going to start hearing it when they're driving to work too. So I'm excited about it.
During commercial break, I went over to my iTunes library, and I didn't find one of your albums. I found Your War Is Over, This Is War, and Day to Night, and I didn't just buy those. They have all been there. They were in my library.
I call that good marketing.
Well, I pride myself on music, patriotic music, and music that speaks to the warrior, and music by warriors that tells their story. That's the kind of stuff I listen to. Some people, for them, it's all about the sound. For me, it's the lyrics.
Yeah, and the reality with us, and the reason we're going to the top is we're good. You know, I pride myself on writing not just music with passion, but my music with passion will be chartable music. You know, I have 100% pride in my ability to make the best music possible in the industry, period, not just within our community.
Well, I will be thrilled to watch your rise, because I definitely think you are going places, because you do have an amazing sound. Now, your show host here will admit she can't carry a tune in a bucket, and I don't even sing in the shower. Now, you catch me on a long drive, I'll be screaming along with my iPod once I get a song down. And I do mean screaming. If you can hear the music coming ahead of my van, you know I've had one of those days and I'm trying to unwind.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely no American Idol singer, but I write within my range, and I have a lot of fun with it. I know how to write good hooks. Like I said, it's not even like knowing how to. It just does it itself anyways. That's the easy part. The beauty of this is making music, playing music, doing music has been the easy part. It has been the effortless part of writing a song, going and recording a song, having the song done. That is wonderful. I have an amazing producer that I work with on a regular basis that knows me and knows my sound. Like, we joke that it's George Martin and John Lennon, because I'll come up with noises. I'll be like, I need a dooka-dooka-dooka-doo, and he'll translate that into whatever we need to do on the album. So I personally have been blessed with that ability to make good music and that not be an effort. You know, the effort has been in people believing in who we are and what we're doing. There's not even 1,000. There's probably 50,000 people that are doing the same thing I'm doing right now, and it's not all based on talent. We're good, we're really good, but it's not based on talent. It's based on how hard you work, how much you want it, and how real your purpose is. And I can vow firsthand that my life has sucked really bad for the last year and a half since losing my father and then my brother. And prior to that, I had spent about 12 to 13 years addicted to alcohol, dealing with post-traumatic stress, and battling that daily. I want to prove to you that it's possible. We as a veteran community, there's no artist out there that's never served that will work harder than me. There's nobody out there that will do what I'm going to do. There's nobody out there that will sacrifice as hard as I've sacrificed. I come in these interviews and it beats my ass. It beats my ass to come on here and talk about my brother taking his own life. This dude taught me how to talk to girls. This dude taught me, how to drive a car. He literally taught me how to drive a car. He coached my little league teams.
That sounds like a fantastic big brother.
Yeah, he was. And somewhere along the way, I lost him, probably before he took his own life. I have to come and relive that sometimes on days like today, multiple times a day. This isn't easy.
This is going to be one of those days where you might think about that bottle, but I know you have the strength inside of you. Because
I honestly don't even think about it anymore. It's kind of comical. I really don't. Like, people are like, does anything trigger you, or do you, this or that? No. Yeah, I made it through New Year's without champagne. I'm good, dude. Like,
I can tell you my 3 addictions, and they
what's
are.
That?
I'm an addict too, but I'm not a recovering one, and I don't want to be. But we're talking caffeine, nicotine, and chocolate.
Yeah, you can't live without those anyways, right?
Aren't those part of the basic food groups? I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. That whole concept of every time we put a label on something, if I say I'm an alcoholic or I'm an addict or I'm this, I'm labeling myself, and then I'm in recovery. So if I'm recovering, there's a chance that I might not make it. The reality is I'm sober. That's what I am. There's no label on me. That's just who I am. I'm John, and this is John as a person, and that's it, period. The moment that you label things, whether it's in culture where we're labeling different societies and who they are and what they are by a specific name, you're dividing. Evil attacks in division. I believe it was Lady Gaga that said that. Yeah, it's crazy because she's one of the most spoken artists on earth. The evil attacks division. They want us in smaller groups. They want us to be weaker. When we are together as humanity and we're actually looking forward and working for progress, we're unstoppable. But that moment that you label something, you're an addict, you're a this, you're a that, you're now put into a corner. And then every day it's a fight to stay sober. Every day it's a fight to be this. Every day it's a fight. Well, that's my entire goal right now with the veteran community, is to take the damn labels off of us. To say, yeah, we're veterans and we're proud to be veterans, but we are freaking amazing members of this society. Put me to work and see if I outwork everyone else that has not done what I've done. I promise you I will. We're incredible. And just because we deal with mental health issues, with post-traumatic stress from going to combat for the freedoms of this country, doesn't mean that we can't be successful. Give us the chance. So I don't like to label things in general. I just like to say, I'm good. I don't need booze, and that's it. There's no recovery for me. There's no addiction for me. I'm just a dude that doesn't drink. Yeah, and that's how it is.
Well, I've got another audio clip, and it doesn't relate to your story, but it relates to another story that our station covered for several months. And this is another person who stayed in the fight, and his name was Sergeant Scott O'Hara. And I told you a little bit about him off air. And I'm going to play just one little audio clip from him in his own words.
For anyone going through any type of personal battle, whether it's cancer, PTSD, depression, a personal challenge that they want to do. They want to go climb Mount Everest. You need to stay in the fight. And when I say that, I mean mentally. If you're not mentally in the fight, if you don't stay in the fight, you can't win.
And I thought those words were pretty appropriate for this, because if you don't stay in the fight mentally and do everything you're doing, you're not going to succeed, but you're focused and you're in the fight. And I think it's amazing.
The moment that you give in and you allow whatever title or stigma or whatever it is that is attempted to be put on you, when you allow that to be reality, you lose. Getting out of losing is not easy. And I can reflect back to literally, eating ramen noodles and living on hardly any money just to survive for, several years of my life after the Marine Corps. But I never quit. I was a functional alcoholic, and I never quit. But the moment that you completely succumb to that, and I've seen it in my own community. I've seen it from really good friends that I served with, where they were dominated by the stigma that they're broken veterans. And the moment that you label something and you believe that label, that's what you're always going to be. My goal is to say, hey,
John,
screw the labels. Screw them.
I sort of have a label because I am a wheelchair user, and I've mentioned that on air before. But you know what? I just got a different way of getting around, and I got a new reality, and I don't let it get in my way.
Yeah, exactly.
It goes back to one of my favorite Marine Corps sayings.
Is believing in the disability. That's all it is. I coach Special Olympics, and my team are the happiest people I've seen on earth, because they just believe in what they're doing. They believe that day they're going to get a medal, and it's incredible. And if we all could just have a lighter perspective on what we're doing in life and believe that whatever it is that we're meant for, whatever God gave us when we landed on this earth, you can do that. It changes everything when you realize you can do it, because there's so much self-doubt and so much, it's the way our society's built to say that you have to live in this box. You have to go to college. You have to get out and get a job. You have to do that. No, you don't. You can. I did. I'm successful at that. I'm a firefighter right now, making an incredible living, helping people every single day. But that wasn't enough for me. That wasn't enough to make my heart feel right. So what it is inside of you, all you have to do is say, I can do it, and you do it. You know, you have labels on you, but you're supporting veterans. You're doing this incredible stuff. It isn't, yeah, that's not what it is. Yeah, finding you and being you. And that's where it comes from. That's how you make that change. You know, and for those that think that they can't, that think that this is the end, that think that the road is ending, that there's this huge block in front of me and I have nowhere to go, I can't drive forward. First of all, there's a whole, and I'll use the word, there's a whole army of veterans behind you that are here saying, dude, just give me a call. I got your back. And they'll get you places. They'll do things for you. It's unbelievable what the veteran community has done for me in my music. And I'm talking people in high places for big companies that have stepped up and helped me out. And they'll get you there. You just have to believe that you can be there. You know, it's insane to say, I'm content with misery, because that's leading you down a road that you can't come back from. And I promise you, when you pull the trigger, when you make that decision, before you do, go spend a day with your kids. Go spend a day with your kids and look at the way that they look at you. Look at how much, no matter what the rest of the world thinks, no matter what you think the rest of the world thinks, because I promise you, they don't feel that way. Look at the way your child looks at you. Look at the way your mother looks at you. Look at the way your wife looks at you. How much love is in those eyes? And keep yourself from making that mistake that you can't say I'm sorry for.
I can tell you this much, John. When I landed in this chair, I drew on one of probably a saying you're very familiar with. 3 words. And they come from the Marine Corps. Do you know what they are?
What's that?
Adapt, improvise, and overcome.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
That became my mantra for 9 months. I literally woke up and my whole world had changed. And I had to learn how to open a door again, how to get dressed again, how to do everything. And I didn't stop. I was, from the time I was injured until I was back in my home, well, a different home that was wheelchair friendly, because our old one had stairs. So I actually came home to a house I'd never seen except via Skype.
Yeah.
But from the time I woke up until the time I was home 3.5 days. And here's a little side note about me. My favorite author was doing a book signing in Atlanta. I'd always wanted to go to one of his book signings. And it was going to be a 7-hour drive. And we'd just gotten my vehicle modified. And I was supposed to, quote, take it easy, get some rest, and don't do anything crazy. Woohoo! Guess who took off on a 7-hour drive 3 days later? And my favorite author is another big military supporter. He's never worn the uniform. And that's Brad Thor. But I've got to say, more than just getting the signature on that book, which, trust me, I love doing, taking that trip and just, as you say, pulling that trigger changed my life. Because I was able to make it from where I live, or where I was living at the time, down to Atlanta and back on my own. I knew that I could do anything.
Yeah. And I'm sure, the reality of that is it probably wasn't easy. Nothing that you do that you really want to accomplish is going to be easy. There's always going to be roadblocks. 2 years into accomplishing my dreams, I lost my brother to suicide. 6 months prior, I lost my father in a freak accident in the hospital. It doesn't mean that we stop. It doesn't mean that we let ourselves be defeated. And that's just the reality of the entire situation is, Steve Harvey says this, and he says it very well. If you YouTube him and just listen to some of his words of wisdom, it's unbelievable. The guy lives by the secret. He incorporates God into it. It's insane. But he says when you're standing at the cliff's edge and you're watching everyone else fly around on their parachutes and you want to be that person, he said you have an option. You can jump, you can get off the cliff's edge with your parachute on your back, have confidence and belief that it's going to open. And he said, when you jump, it's probably not going to open right away. You're going to bounce off some cliff edges. You're going to work your way down the wall before it opens. But when it opens, you will soar with everyone else. And I live by that. That if you want it, if you think you can get it, you can. You just have to go for it, and everything in the entire world is possible. The universe is massive. So why not you? Yeah. You ask for it, it will come. Jim Carrey stands in front of people and says, I am proof that anything you believe is possible. I am living proof. Right now, I am. That anything you believe is possible. You are living proof that anything you believe is possible. These people that are capable and fine, that are living wonderful lives, that just get caught in a monster in their head and they're fighting this block that can't be stopped. Stop and take a minute. Breathe. Realize everything else around you and how wonderful it is. Reset your goals. Adapt and overcome, as you said. Reset your goals and make things that you never imagined possible.
All right, John, is there anything else you want to talk about that we haven't covered today?
No, you
mentioned the Valkyrie Initiative.
Go out and buy the album. I don't think I said that.
You've mentioned Valkyrie Initiative. Would you like to give their social media information and yours?
Yeah, I'd love to. The Valkyrie Initiative is the Valkyrie Initiative on Facebook, and at the Valkyrie Initiative for Twitter and whatnot. But you can go on their website, read their information, read what they do. They do phenomenal things. They're working with not just veterans, but first responders. My brother was a police officer for 20 years, so it was really personal for me to say, yes, I want to help this. I am a firefighter. We do have trouble transitioning as well. They work on setting up different camps and different classes and different things for veterans and first responders transitioning out, whether it's dealing with the brain side of things with post-traumatic stress and actually being with your peers to work through that, or job experience, learning how to do resumes, learning how to interview, moving forward with those processes as well. It is an incredible organization. They're very young when it comes to 501c. They came up with this concept for the album, which is unbelievable. They didn't want to just ask for money to help them out. They wanted to do something and give back in return. Go to facebook.com/John Preston Music. That is where I spend most of my time as far as communicating with my fan base. I'm not very good at tweeting or Instagram. I'm really bad at Instagram. So if you want to find me on Facebook. Twitter is John Preston, or at John Preston USA, and Instagram is also John Preston Music. But go to Facebook. If you're dealing with something and you need to talk to somebody, reach out. I will spend as much time as I spent on this interview or more to help you if I have to. I have resources. I can get you resources. We can do this. We can make a difference. If you need help and you don't want to talk to your family, you don't want to talk to your friends because you don't want them to know, if you're trying to keep this stigma or this weakness that you think exists out of it, reach out to me. I'll keep it quiet. We can talk.
Now, if somebody doesn't want to post a message on Facebook, is there an email address where they can contact you privately?
Just a Facebook Messenger will work. I am pretty adamant about checking it and making sure that we don't have any veterans that are dealing with problems.
All right. Well, other than go buy the album, I'd like you to do one more thing for me.
Okay.
I want you to introduce Superman Falls.
Perfect.
You gonna introduce the song?
We'll do this. So in January of last year, I found out that my brother had taken his own life. I've been an advocate for veteran suicide for over 3 years. I went through a world of devastation and destruction before I found my focus and knew what I wanted to do. Superman Falls is not about the life that took their own life, but it's about the wreckage that was left behind. We need to find change. We need to fight. We need to stand up and fight for our families that are going to be left behind when we make this mistake. For Pacific Records and everybody that supported us, the Valkyrie Initiative, this is John Preston with Superman Falls.
lips, it tells a story oh so well, of the frozen tears that shatter as they're falling from my shell. And 21 guns is the anthem to our lives. Now we're back here once again. 7 hands on the trigger, pulling the trigger now. Everything is changing. Little Superman falls. Everything is breaking apart now. There's one to save us all. Superman falls. What's in store now that selfless has been selfishly relieved? It's so hard to accept the hero of our world who's filled with disease. And 21 guns now blasting over and over, screaming in my head. 7 hands on the trigger, pulling the trigger now. Everything is changing. Is it all when Superman falls? Everything is breaking apart now. There's no one to save us all. Superman falls. Everything is changing. Lose it all when Superman falls. Everything is breaking apart now.